the August 13th meeting of the Traffic and Parking Advisory Board meeting to order. Good afternoon and welcome. The Traffic and Parking Advisory Board reviews items of interest regarding parking and traffic items. We are an advisory board, and our favorable recommendations today will go before the Oshkosh Common Council. The council can either accept or reject any recommendation from this board. If you don't agree with our decision, you can discuss the item with any council member. If the board does not recommend an item, a common council member may in fact sponsor a new ordinance regarding that same item. All items do require 2 readings before the common council. The first reading on any issue we take up today will take place on Tuesday, August 27th at 6 p.m., and you will be allowed to comment on the item at that time, though the council will take no action. On Tuesday, September 10th at 6 p.m., the item will again be on a second reading, at which time the council will take action. You will again be allowed to speak. For this afternoon's meeting, I will read each agenda item, at which time, if you'd like to speak, please step to the podium and give your name and address for the record. I do ask that you keep your comments pertinent to the agenda item. The item will then come back to this board for discussion and ultimately action. Please call the roll.
Becker?
Here.
Christensen? Absent. Haas?
Here.
Heschel?
Here.
Szynski?
Here.
Staple?
Here.
Weinschneider? Absent.
All right. First item on this afternoon's agenda is the approval of meeting minutes from last time.
So moved. Second.
Anyone with any comments, additions, deletions? Seeing none, please call the roll on approval of minutes.
Becker?
Aye.
Christensen? Oops, excuse me. Haas?
Aye.
Heschel?
Aye.
Szynski?
Aye.
Staple?
Aye.
Which brings us to public comment. This board has adopted a public participation policy which provides 15 minutes for general public comment on a first-come, first-served basis. Citizens must provide their name and address and may speak on matters related to traffic issues within the authority of this board. Statements should be addressed to board members and not to city staff or other persons. Items that are on the agenda should be addressed at the time the item is read and not during this public period for comment. Statements are limited to 3 minutes, and citizens may only provide comment once unless special permission is granted by the board. Is there anyone that wishes to avail themselves of that opportunity? Seeing none, we move to new business. First item, a request for no parking on Knapp Street, both sides, from West 5th Ave to 26 feet south. Current condition being parking not allowed 15 feet from a marked crosswalk. Mr. Collins.
Sure. All right. This is a request from the Sacred Heart Neighborhood Association and the Sacred Heart Church and School. The Sacred Heart Neighborhood Association, along with the East Central Regional Planning Commission, they did a pop-up test this past spring at that crosswalk to evaluate possible safety improvements. And as a result, they requested a couple things. One of them that would be parking be restricted, and that a ladder-style crosswalk be painted. We did paint the ladder-style crossing, as that's more of a street painting thing, and there's not a formal action needed for that. But sometimes vehicles are parking very close to the crosswalk, with the church being there, which reduces the visibility of pedestrians, which, as you know, state statute prohibits parking within 15 feet of a crosswalk or a marked crosswalk, but the vehicles are encroaching in that area, and then obviously, unless enforcement's out there to ticket or to ask them to get them removed, there's not much you can do as it's happening. So they're asking for the removal of parking for the extra 5 feet. So we would then sign it as no parking, and it would clear that crosswalk. And I believe there's at least one person here to talk on that.
Which is a nice segue. This would be your opportunity if you wish to speak before it comes to the board. Again, step to the podium, name and address for the record.
Sure. My name is Michelle Spanbauer. I'm the administrator, PK-12 at Sacred Heart St. Jude. My address is 2906 Westmore Road, Oshkosh. I'm asking not only as a representative from the church, but as a representative from the Sacred Heart community. We're noticing during the day when children attempt to cross the street and there's a funeral going on, and we have a hearse parked in front of the church with a processional lining up behind it. That's one occurrence where they are encroaching on the sidewalk. and that crosswalk area. And at night, when most of our students are coming from 5:45 to 7:45, it's dusk or dark. And for a student to determine if there's a car coming, when parents are parked up and down both sides of Knapp, they're getting out into the street in order to see beyond a car, because most cars are taller than a student. So it really is a safety risk. I will tell you that even though we do let our parents know that there is no parking in that area, when they're in a hurry and it's cold and they want to get kids in the car, very frequently that's what's occurring. So having some sort of marking or paint delineation for that area would really be helpful for the kids. Do you have any questions?
Anyone?
Oh.
Thank you. Oh,
Yeah.
Mr. Peschel, sorry.
Sure. So, just so that it's, you're the administrator for the school,
Right, I work for the parish,
for the parish?
correct. I'm also
Which
the
is-
parish representative for the Sacred Heart Neighborhood Association.
Okay, got it.
We're killing two
Yep.
birds with one stone here.
All right, that works. So just enlighten me here, and maybe Jim, you can too as well. What's the current parking status on Knapp Street?
So I can show you right here. So basically, there currently isn't a restriction. Well, there is. It's the state statute would be 15 feet from the marked crosswalk.
Okay.
So, and they were asking for 20. How we would write the ordinance would we would go from the inside corner here, going this way. So we actually wrote the ordinance for 26 feet. So
Okay.
that gives them plenty of clearance.
All right, and so that's really to provide relief at those corners when kids are trying to cross the street.
Right.
So-
There's 4 schools that are accessing this at all hours of the day. There's Franklin Elementary, Sacred Heart, our religious ed program. There's Perry Tipler Middle School, and there's Lourdes Academy.
Okay,
And this would be the main intersection. This is the intersection we're talking about.
okay.
There's also, it's basically a four-legged crossing, but this is where they want the major crossing is.
Sure. And so beyond that 26 feet, I think is what you said, it's open to parking on the street then?
Yep.
Okay. So, do you find that a lot of the kids, when they're getting out of school, they either walk to those corners or they're waiting for family to pick them up on the street, correct?
It's a fair combination of both. I would say from a day school setting, we're seeing more and more kids that are latchkey. And by that I mean they're going home on their own without an adult amount of supervision. So they're crossing that street by themselves. There's no crosswalk attendant here at present. It's on Sawyer, I believe. I think we have one. Yes. This has quite a bit more traffic on Knapp. So kids are on bikes, and they're also walking by themselves. There are some parents that walk their children back and forth, but I would say during the day hours, it's mostly children walking themselves. At night, back and forth, when we have programming and on the weekends, I would also say that a great deal of that is children walking themselves and getting into the cars.
How many kids go to Sacred Heart?
This past year, we were just under 300, but right now with enrollment, we're going to be a little bit over 300.
And do a majority of them come from in that neighborhood?
We're all over the city. Yeah. That's why there's parking all over the place. And if you've ever been there on a class night, it's a little crazy. Mhm.
Need a motion to move forward on this agenda item.
Make a motion to request no parking on Knapp Street, both sides from West Fifth Avenue to 26 feet south.
Looking for, there it is. Does anyone on the board have any comments, questions, concerns for Mr. Collins? The one comment I made actually was before anyone else got here, when it was just myself and Mr. Collins. I had asked him what the signage was that was going to be put in place there. And it's still up. Again, if you have access to it, Jim?
Yeah.
You put the icon at the location of 26 feet, give or take.
Probably be
It's
35.
plus or minus. My
Might be wrong
intent
here.
was to, the question I in fact asked him was, are we gonna sign that such that it's gonna be marked no parking here to corner? Because what I feel is the problem, and again, woman from Sacred Heart can either confirm or deny this, what I believe is probably happening is people are unaware, and you said yourself, that convenience becomes an issue, but more often than not, people are unaware that they cannot park within 15 feet of a crosswalk. So they see that 10-foot spot and go, oh yeah, my little Honda Civic will fit in there real nicely. And then they park there, and thereby, or therein becomes the problem. So again, I asked the question before anyone else got here, just to make it abundantly clear, there should be no debate. Here to corner means here to corner.
Sure.
So that's my understanding.
Yep, we can definitely do that.
Now, do we still paint those areas at all from corner to where the sign would be, or is that a level of redundancy, or?
Right, yeah, we generally don't. We generally would just sign it, like Mr. Becker's from here to corner.
No,
It gets lost in the snow anyway.
right, and obviously the sun, I mean, it becomes a
Yep.
maintenance issue to
Right.
paint the curb every 2
Yep.
years.
Yeah, we've talked about that with the board before, and we get so many requests for that. I mean, the paint, you can't see it in the winter anyway,
Sure.
but it would become a maintenance nightmare if we had to paint like 4 feet from everybody's driveway, and we get a lot of those requests too, and we just obviously can't do that.
And it might be a little bit off topic, it might be in our best interest to put that information out far and wide, whether it has to go through OPD, from their social media.
Sure, we could,
Just as a reminder, 15 feet from a crosswalk, 10 from a fire hydrant, 4 from a driveway. I think it'll alleviate a lot of issues for a lot of people. But anyway, if there's anyone else that has a comment, this would be the time to address it. Otherwise, I'm going to ask that the roll be called on this agenda item. Seeing none, call the roll on agenda new business 1.
Becker.
Aye.
Haas.
Aye.
Peschel.
Aye.
Kaczynski.
Aye.
Staple.
Aye.
Carried 5-0.
All right, which brings us to agenda 2, a request for a 4-way stop at Wisconsin Street and Linwood Ave, current condition being 2-way stop, Viola Avenue stops for Wisconsin Street.
all right, this is a citizen request, and I believe he's here to speak as well. But this does come up I know it's come up at least once in the last couple of years. I think Mr. Weinsteiner brought it up before. He's not currently here, but he had asked before. His question was, well, why is the Viola 4-way stop, and that it's not, Linwood is not, which I haven't found the answer for that. It goes back quite a long ways, I guess. I don't have a record of it currently, but anyway, the current issue is the citizen that lives on this corner states he's witnessed a handful of major car accidents at the intersection, and there's a 4-way stop intersection 1 block south at Wisconsin and Viola. So I did the research, and first I start out. We have 3 options. Obviously, we have status quo. We could change the intersection of Wisconsin and Viola to 2-way stop. Basically, the reason that the two are kind of related is they're in pretty close proximity to each other. They're only maybe a block away, so this would be Viola. If I'm looking at it, no, I think I went too far. That's Linwood. So they're in pretty close proximity, so we could leave it like it is. We could possibly move the 4-way from Viola to up to Linwood, or the other option is we can make that Linwood a 4-way stop. So in doing the research, there have been 3 crashes at the intersection of Wisconsin and Linwood over the past 3 years. Those 3 crashes, one crash, a driver that was from another country was looking at a GPS and didn't stop. Another, the driver was distracted adjusting a heated seat and did not stop. And then in the final crash, the driver said they thought it was a 4-way stop and did not properly stop to yield the right of way. And then there's been 1 crash at the intersection of Wisconsin and Viola over the last 5 years, and that was a driver that disobeyed the stop sign. So that gives you a little history on the crash history. As far as the traffic counts, so we did perform traffic counts, and there were 2,540 vehicles at the Linwood and on Linwood and 2,280 on Wisconsin. That gives us an annual average daily total of about 4,820. And then on Viola, there was pretty minimal traffic. There were 259 vehicles and 2,447 on Wisconsin, and that gives us an annual average daily total of about 2,706. Of course, this is during the summer. I mean, it'd probably be a little bit busier during the school year. However, that gives us a pretty good indication of what traffic volume is. The warrants for four-way stop sign intersection are 5 or more reported crashes in a 12-month period that are susceptible to correction by an all-way stop installation. And those include right and left turn collisions as well as right angle collisions. So we don't have that volume of crashes. The traffic exceeds 300 vehicles per hour for at least 8 hours for the major street approaches, and exceeds 200 vehicles per hour for at least 8 hours on the minor street approaches, and are relatively equal in distribution. We don't have that volume of traffic. The other considerations, include the need to control left turn conflicts, the need to control vehicle pedestrian conflicts near locations with high pedestrian volumes, locations with limited ability to see conflicting traffic, and intersections at 2 residential collector streets with similar design and operating characteristics. So based on the warrants and the manual for uniform traffic control devices, it's probably not warranted here. However, we could possibly make an argument that, these aren't collector streets, but they do have similar design and operating characteristics, and there's pedestrian volume, although it's not real high in that area, more so probably during school. So that just gives you some background. I mean, we have obviously unwarranted signs in other areas of the city, and that's more based on engineering judgment and what's happening at the intersections. So there's nothing saying that we couldn't do something. It's just that that's what's the traffic control device manual recommends. So that's kind of where we're at. I'll get So, and it is, I mean, it's, I gotta get over a block or two. But anyway, that's where Quick Trip is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So go to your left,
I gotta go south.
and then go straight up that road.
I don't know why I put that in there and that one came up, but yeah. All right, we'll get over there. Yep, we can put one more. There we go.
There's Linwood.
So this is Linwood, and then as you can see, the stop sign here, that's Viola.
That's a four-way at Viola.
Yep.
Correct.
I'm surprised that Linwood
Yeah, it
actually
goes
has
too
more
far.
traffic than Wisconsin.
Yeah, that's what I couldn't really find why.
Well, I would
Sometime
suspect it has
there,
to
but-
do with the pickup drop-off pattern at North High School.
But this was
Not-
taken over the summer, I think,
Was it?
wasn't it?
Yeah,
So
I
last-
did this traffic count just a few weeks ago.
Oh,
Um,
huh,
So it's still a pretty high amount.
yeah.
for that.
Well, Linwood's kind of a street that goes through, further.
That's all the way from
Yeah.
Algoma
Yeah.
all the way to Maine.
Yeah, when most of them don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
For Viola, I think Viola, is in that neighborhood as well, but goes to Maine. It's not, it's about half the size of Linwood.
Yeah, there's
Drives-
barely any traffic compared to the other 2 streets on Viola.
The other difference is that Viola is a street with a school on it, and so you have a lot of kids that are going to and from Oak Lawn in that area that are using that as that street, but that doesn't have any indication on whether it should be a four-way light or a four-way sign at all.
Right.
It's just that there is school traffic on that.
Well, pedestrian traffic.
Yep.
Any idea, Jim, what the distance is between Linwood and Viola?
It's, I don't know exactly, but it's not very far. As you can see, so here's the intersection of Linwood, and here's Viola. So it's
Oh.
probably a block, I would say.
It's one block.
Yeah, well, but
It's
again,
a long- yeah.
well, but a block could be
The
80
short
feet,
side
it
of the
could
block.
be, yeah. My point being is, after school, if there's kids
Yeah.
traversing, you may get a queue problem on that block. Because if you've got a group of kids going through right at school dismissal time, you may hold up traffic at one of those four-way stops or let them to cross, which of course is the appropriate thing to do, but you're gonna have the next intersection, depending on whether it's before school or after school, clogged. Again, don't know if that's true, but it's certainly a possibility. I mean,
But most of the people would have a hard time crossing Jackson.
Well, true, but
They might go to a different street rather than trying to drive Viola across Jackson.
oh, no, I'm not talking about vehicular traffic, I'm talking
Oh.
about pedestrian
Oh.
traffic, with the kids going back and forth to Oak Lawn.
Yep.
And any north kids that happen to be walking at that point, which means that traffic on Wisconsin is gonna have to wait for them to cross, which then may back up further north or south, depending on, south wouldn't be as big a deal, but.
Is Linwood the street that the Methodist church is on?
Yes.
Yeah,
Right next to the
McDonald's.
football field.
Okay, so that may be an issue too.
I don't, and the reason I think it's not warranted according to the manual. I do think, I brought it because it is worth at least discussing. Because when you do drive that, it does feel like maybe you should stop. I mean, I drove it back and quite a few times just to kind of see what it does feel like maybe you should stop because it is a busier intersection. But obviously my concerns is if we would move the stop from Viola to Linwood, I mean, after all these years, people are used to now stopping at Viola, and that might cause other issues. So I don't know if that's going to cause some problems. Obviously, we could leave it as it is, but we could also, although it's not warranted,
Sure.
it's not completely out of the question to put a
So
four-way stop.
I used to live in those apartments on Wisconsin in Viola, and then I managed the apartments across the street on Viola. I used to manage those apartments on the corner of Wisconsin and Viola. And I always thought that four-way stop was an awkward four-way stop. Just coming from Murdoch Street. I've actually always felt that Linwood was the more natural four-way stop for an intersection in that area. I actually observed accidents where people blew the stop sign at Viola, just because of that reason. I didn't see the stoplight, whatever. And so there's a side of me that has always felt that Linwood and Wisconsin is the better location for a four-way in there. Viola is very much a residential street, because I mean, in that area, it's not a long street, and so I think there's a lot more car traffic coming from Linwood and coming from Smith up Wisconsin Avenue into that area.
I would agree with that. I think maybe a citizen that brought this up, I don't know if we
Yeah.
can give him a chance to speak at some
Oh,
point.
we will, most
Yeah.
definitely. I certainly we didn't forget about you. Just got embroiled here.
So at Viola, it's a four-way, not a two-way?
Yeah, it's a four-way.
Four-way.
So this is it.
So that's the neighborhood, which is, I think, just a 2-block street.
Yeah, it's not
Maybe
very.
one block or 2 blocks in there. That's just a one.
I would agree that, I mean, it does, when you're driving, it does feel like it should be at Linwood, but
Is there a crossing guard on Jackson at all for the Oaklawn students?
Oak Lawn.
Yes.
I believe,
Yeah,
yes,
at-
there is.
At the Quick
Linwood,
Trip
or-
station.
Oh, yeah, there
Quick
is,
Trip
yeah.
station, there is.
Yeah, there's a
That
light.
Quick Trip?
There's a light there, a flashing light as well, beacon.
So most kids aren't gonna take Viola across anyways,
No, that's where a lot of them do cross,
At Viola?
is at Viola. So,
The crossing guard's at the Quick Trip station, isn't it?
That's on Linwood, isn't it, or?
yeah, the Quick Trip's on Linwood.
well, maybe there's just beacons on both sides. I don't know, Jim, is there beacons on Viola and at Linwood? Light
Up here.
beacons?
I know there's one going each direction, but it's not on both. It would just be on one. I don't remember which one it is off the top of my head, but It might be Viola. I gotta remember where it's at. Okay, so maybe we can tell from here.
Right there.
It's right here. So this is Viola.
it's
So
after.
So it's
So it's
mid-block.
at Linwood.
it's at Linwood. So this one's here, and then the crossing guard would be up at Viola, or Linwood, I'm sorry.
Yep, so then,
Yeah, here's the.
with that being that way, that seems to be a more natural fit for a four-way stop there then. If that's gonna be the natural spot for.
And less of a
children.
reason to have one on Viola.
Or maybe keep it a two-way. Stop at Viola.
Oh, yeah, we would definitely keep that a two-way, because I do think you need to.
I think two
That's some-
four-ways in a row doesn't make sense.
No.
That would get ugly.
So the idea is that Wisconsin could remain open at Viola.
Right,
At Viola, you would stop at Wisconsin.
yeah. So that would be one of the options to move the four-way stop from Viola to Linwood. So yes, then Wisconsin would stop at, not at Viola, but at Linwood.
Give everybody a little time to ruminate on that and ask our guest to step to the podium. Again, state your name and address and share with us your insight.
Hi, yes. My name is David Wetroth. I live at 560 West Linwood, which is the apartment right there on the corner of Wisconsin and Linwood. And I'm in the front right apartment, so I get to hear and see whatever goes on. So I get a little nosy. But I moved to Wisconsin 2 years ago in July for work, and I've been in this apartment since. And it just, I think you guys kind of illuminated it. This one feels more like a four-way stop, and I don't necessarily, can't tell you why, but I think a lot of it has to do with on Viola, when Viola hits Jackson, there's no like stop sign or anything there, so there's like a supplement store there. So there's not, and not the Walgreens, the McDonald's is the next street over. So people who are going to the McDonald's are going to go up the next block. With Jackson, we've got the Quick Trip and a Family Dollar store or Family General on this side of Jackson. So the Linwood side it's all on one street. And then across the street, we've got either a block down, we've got the coin-operated laundry, and then a block down, we've got Pick and Save. So it feels like the traffic is more, Linwood and Wisconsin feel more like, industrial's not the right word. It feels more like an actual street versus like a city street, you know? It operates, at least from Linwood, like at Wisconsin, Linwood down to Jackson, operates a little bit more. There's a lot of traffic that goes by my apartment throughout the day, just coming from Quick Trip in general. They also put a Casey's in, cut another block down, so there's 2 gas stations in our area now. So I don't know, it just felt like that area could benefit from being the four-way stop, just because with Oshkosh North being a block up, and I think the traffic, I don't necessarily know. I don't have a child, so I don't necessarily know what their traffic operation is. But the field is also on Linwood for the school, so there's a lot of traffic that parks on there for games and stuff. So especially during football season and soccer season, there's some uptick in traffic just coming from parents and students going to games. So I don't know. I felt like after the accidents that do happen at that intersection are usually pretty gnarly. I don't want to say that they total the vehicles, but they're usually. The last one I just saw a month and a half ago, whenever that was, it was like this guy's new Charger's entire front part of his car was completely gone. So when they happen large, but. And I don't think I don't know about any pedestrian incidents, but there is a decent amount of families that walk through, just because we've also got a good amount of like immigrant families living across the street from me, and a lot of walking happens in the summer with them. So there's a decent amount of traffic that happens on the Wisconsin-Linwood area, at least from my perspective. So.
Do you have any questions for him?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone on the board, again, have any further comments, questions, or concerns? Because otherwise, the way I read this, we're going to be forced to identify one of the three options, or come up with a fourth of our own, I suppose. But I think that's where we should start.
I would like to make a motion to implement option number 2 of Jim's suggestions, of the suggestions that are in there. So that means that it would change the intersection of Wisconsin Street and Viola to a two-way stop and designate Linwood Avenue and Wisconsin Street as a four-way stop.
Second.
Anyone have a comment or a concern or anything to say?
That makes sense to me, but I really would like to give the people on Viola a chance if they have any compelling reason
Yeah, we would need to notify the people,
to
or-
come and put their input in, but that certainly makes the most sense to me to move that.
I was gonna suggest that we not pass this tonight, but table it for our next meeting to allow Jim and his staff to be able to communicate to those neighbors. So,
Is that a reasonable expectation, Jim?
So we would notice,
provide information to
yeah.
neighbors.
Okay.
that-
Yeah, we generally don't notice like stop signs, but I guess we could.
Well, one could
Could
argue
send
it's got an
something out.
impact, no pun intended, on
Yeah.
pedestrian safety.
Yeah, we could definitely send a notification out to residents in that area.
And this is, and what we're doing is essentially different than what the existing condition is. And it's not just on the intersection that's been requested, it's a different intersection in that neighborhood that we're also changing.
On the other hand, it might be nice to get it through before school starts too. Our next meeting won't be till after school.
Yeah, actually,
let it go to the
that's
council
true, that's
first,
true,
see what
yeah.
the Council
Well, it's
says.
true, we, I
You know,
mean,
you guys can always turn
It's
it
true.
down, or, you know.
True,
I'm just
but-
looking at it from the
Yeah.
standpoint of, you know, you get into mid-September when our meeting is, then you got the school is already in session, whereas now we're in the middle of August.
but I think a lot of times council expects that when something comes to them, that it's been fully vetted and fully communicated out to, you know, to the neighborhood or to the areas that have concern before it gets to us.
That would
So-
seem only fair, because, like I said, there's a change. It's not like,
Right.
Right.
And I don't know why they would object, but the Methodist Church might not like it, you know, if that's going on, if that impact things Sunday morning.
True. All right, well, then we have before us both a motion and a second to at least, at this point, adopt option 2. Sounds like there may be a motion to table forthcoming, but first things first. We've elected at least to adopt motion 2, so I will call the roll unless there's discussion on an amendment to
So
use.
this is where if we wanted to table, we'd make a motion to table.
No, again, my understanding is we'd have to actually adopt option 2 because it doesn't make any sense to table it if we don't adopt
Okay, so
motion 2.
we can adopt it and then not
And
send
then-
it forward.
Right.
So, Can I
Oh,
clarify?
absolutely, Bob.
So, really what we're doing, the request in front of us is to adopt a four-way stop. So, so I would say that what I've put out, is we would be accepting a four-way stop. But in order to create that four-way stop, we need to address the two-way stop, which is an item that should be held over for the next meeting. Like, I think we can go forward, my opinion, we can go forward with a four-way stop at Linwood in Wisconsin.
With the caveat that it's going to be
With the
tabled.
caveat that it's gonna be tabled to garner more information and insight.
Right.
So-
And all I was trying to communicate is we got to take that first step before we can take the second one.
Correct.
Okay.
We have to, go ahead.
You could theoretically implement a four-way stop there and table removing making Viola a two-way. That's another option too, because they're actually
Or-
two separate
Yeah,
ordinances.
yeah, and that's kind of, or we could advise Jim today
Yeah.
to implement the change of Viola and Wisconsin, and then that comes back to us at our next meeting.
But I don't know, I see them as a package, because you wouldn't want to have two four-way stops a block apart.
That's true.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do it until you do them both at the same time.
Right, it's a package.
It's a package deal,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's fine too. I think who would, I mean, I definitely can notice people, but so who do you think we should notice? I mean, there's a lot of people that live on Viola and a lot of people that live on
I guess,
Wisconsin and a
mean-
lot that live on Linwood. I mean,
As early on in this discussion, it was said nobody knew why Viola was there. I mean, why that stop was put in there. Somebody brought it up at some point, and there was a
Right.
good reason.
Yep.
And I guess I'd liked if somebody has a good reason out there to give them a chance to say,
Say,
this is
this is why you gotta
why we
keep
did it.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'll dig back as far as I can find, but I haven't found anything yet. So I don't know that.
And if nobody shows up at the next meeting, we'll know.
Right. But I guess my question is just how far do you want me to notice on?
So I would say a block in either direction of Wisconsin and Viola.
Okay. Yep, we can do that.
And maybe notify the school as well, you know,
Yeah.
the potential changes. in the work.
Okay, sure.
All
I
right,
think those are gonna be, in general, the people that regularly use that intersection, so.
which then brings us to voting to adopt option 2 as articulated by Mr. Peschel. Please call the roll.
Becker,
Aye.
Haas,
Aye.
Peschel,
Aye.
Szynski,
Aye.
Staple,
Aye.
carried 5-0.
Do I hear a motion to table until such time as more information is available or people have been noticed?
So moved.
Second.
Any comment on that? Then a vote to table the motion until such time as was laid out by Mr. Peschel. Please call the roll.
Becker,
Aye.
Haas,
Aye.
Peschel,
Aye.
Szynski,
Aye.
Staple,
Aye.
carried 5-0.
Which brings us to staff statements. Mr. Collins.
All right, the only thing I wanted to, just inform you about, and I guess it'll help the school district a little bit, is, Jefferson Elementary, I believe, with the closure of Smith School, those students will now be attending Jefferson. And some citizens from the former Smith area, and others have inquired about a safe route to walk and bike to Jefferson School. So the East Central Wisconsin Regional Plan Commission, they have actually a safe route to school program. They did an audit of the area, and made some recommendations. So I was gonna actually pull up that graphic, but I was having some issues doing that earlier, but I think I can, at least show you from our board packet. They actually have an interactive map on East Central's website, but I was having trouble linking to it. In the interest of time, I'll show you this one. But basically this, there's gonna be at 9th in Minnesota, there's already a crossing guard, and then we have the rapidly flashing beacons there. But from students coming the other way, there'll be a crossing guard at South Park in Minnesota, which was recently approved. And then we'll also put the ladder-style crosswalk there. And so this kind of shows you the preferred route for anybody that's coming from that area, the former Smith area, to get to the school there at Jefferson on Minnesota. So this kind of shows you where the 3 crossing guards will be. So this is just more of an informational piece that if anybody's interested, there was an audit done, and they will share this with the school district, and they'll be sharing that with obviously the parents from that'll be attending that school this year.
So they're adding one crossing guard?
Yep, so they're adding a crossing guard at South Park in
Are they,
Minnesota.
were there crossing guards that were eliminated by the other closure? Or?
As far as I
Would've been-
know, I think there was.
I don't know that the spot where their crossing would have taken place would be eliminated, yes, but I assume that the city would have retained that crossing guard, if that's what you're getting to.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying if they eliminated one and then we're adding another, so it's just a offset.
Sure.
Right,
Yep.
that's what I assume happened.
That's a good question, though.
Are there sick?
That is what happened?
Yeah,
Okay.
and the position is there, we're still interviewing people, because that's a very, there's a lot of overturn So, but the position is retained and just change location.
Okay.
And is there a signaled crosswalk at South Park in Oregon?
Yes. Yep, that actually, we actually just redid that intersection last year, the year before. So there are push buttons, and then it's a fully controlled, traffic-controlled intersection.
And so the intention here is to show that we're encouraging our children not to use the busiest streets to get to school, but to use the side streets, and then we're also supporting their ability to get there safely by having crossing guards.
Right.
Which then brings us, unless someone else has something on safe routes to school, to agenda items for the future.
I just wanted to bring up, you changed the no parking at Osborne in Georgia like a year ago, and it's been very successful up until just recently. Somebody's been parking there between, there's the one stop sign by the fire hydrant, and then there's the other stop sign for just a little bit north. Somebody's been parking between the two stop signs, and the one's got the arrow, no parking. So they're parking between there and the other one. I don't know if maybe could add a no parking to corner or something, or.
Yeah, we can take a look at it. We've added quite a few signs in that area, so I think now it's more
Yeah,
of an
and I
enforcement
can't understand,
area.
like, so
Yeah.
there's two stops, or two no parking signs, and somebody's parking exactly in between them.
Yeah, that's probably more of an enforcement issue.
Yeah. Well, I just want to point out that it's been pretty frequently, so I didn't know if a no parking.
Especially if it's the
corner-
same car.
Yeah.
You just gotta reach one.
I don't know if it's exactly the same car or not, but, I drive that route daily, and like I said, there's been no problem for like a year or so. And all of a sudden now somebody's parking there all the time.
Sounds like you might have a new neighbor, Dan.
Check them out.
But I mean, that change worked out, magnificently, because like I said, people would have gatherings at that one shelter, so then they'd always be parking right up to the fire hydrant. And when you did that change, it was like great, you get great visibility, and all of a sudden it's, because I thought, geez, they didn't change this again, did they? I had to look, and no, there's still the no parking there.
Yeah, we can take a look at it, and then Captain Kaiser's here, so she heard you too. So,
Anyone else with a future agenda item? All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.